Alright lads, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the toxic girlfriend of top tier War Thunder, the 2S38. It's a little overweight, chunky, and spits absolute venom, so I think I made a pretty good analogy at the beginning of the video. But with the recent introduction of the T80UD, which is a T80U just with a diesel engine at battle rating 10.0, is the 2S38 as overpowered as it used to be, and is it still the best grinder for the Soviet tech tree? Well, if I had my way, both of these vehicles would go up to 11.0. It's ridiculously under-tiered, both of these tanks. The next time Gaijin copes and seethes about not being able to put heavy tanks or not being able to put the mouse at 7.3 due to balance reasons, just show them the 10.0 Soviet lineup. It's the most under-tiered lineup in the bloody game. Anyway, the 2S38 is a premium light tank in the 7th rank of the Soviet tech tree. It comes in at battle rating 10.0 in arcade, realistic, and simulator battles. This is a Golden Eagle premium, meaning it is going to set you back 9,270 Golden Eagles. This is the exact same price as the T80UD, the newest Golden Eagle premium added to the Soviet tech tree. The expert qualification will set you back 1,160,000 Silver Lions, and for the ace quality it's 2,100 Golden Eagles. Due to the 2S38 using an autoloader system, the expert and ace qualifications aren't too important on this vehicle, but it still does drastically reduce your repair times, as well as help out with 1,000 other things, so I would still recommend picking it up. But with the T80UD having a very powerful 3BM42 Mango round, as well as insane levels of survivability for a 10.0 vehicle, is the more noob-friendly T80UD now the best choice for the Soviet tech tree? Or is the 2S38's rather high-risk, high-reward gameplay still worth it for the more medium to advanced level War Thunder players? Well, if you'd like to know my opinion on which tank is best, then stick around for the rest of the video. But first, I'd like to thank today's sponsor. GE for War Thunder is a long-term sponsor of this channel. The app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store, and you complete various simple tasks in exchange for small amounts of Golden Eagles, mainly answering surveys and watching ads for other apps. I personally use this app in between games or whilst I'm side climbing. You aren't going to win enough to buy a top tier premium, we can easily unlock a few modifications to make a stock grind easier, or purchase a day of premium if you have a free Saturday. Download the app from the link in the description, and use my code for some extra free Golden Eagles. Thanks again to GE for War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Alright lads, welcome back. The 2S38 is powered by an engine producing 500 horsepower, combined with a weight of 21.5 tons, gives us a power to weight ratio of 23.3 horsepower per ton. This is a rather high power to weight ratio for a Soviet vehicle, especially compared to the T72s at 10.0, which are a lot lower, shall we say. The biggest W though, in my opinion, is the reverse speed of 21 kilometers per hour. It allows you to get out of a shit hits the fan situation very effectively. No more reversing at 4 kilometers per hour and being absolutely destroyed by every Leopard player on the map. So the mobility is pretty good. What about the survivability? Well, when this tank was first introduced, Gaijin didn't really model the ammunition correctly. This led to post-pen rounds not really doing any damage. Gaijin has since fixed this issue though, conveniently for them after everyone has already bought it. The fixing of the ammunition now means that the ammunition will detonate incredibly easily, so a single hit is going to kill this tank. Just make sure that you shoot the hull of the vehicle, as the turret is obviously unmanned and will do no damage basically. So the survivability isn't exactly amazing, as I'm sure you'll agree. The hull of the tank is incredibly vulnerable to pretty much every sort of incoming round. Unless you can get hull down and use your crewless turret to good use, the 2S38 isn't exactly going to be alive for a great deal of time. So the mobility is decent but not amazing, and the survivability is pretty bad. So why is everyone coping and seething constantly about the 2S38? Well, it's the gun. It's the 57mm 2A90 cannon. This gun has done more for the Soviet tech tree than Sydney Sweeney has done for the revival of Hollywood. It can basically do everything. It can destroy enemy main battle tanks, enemy helicopters, enemy planes. It literally has a round for every use you can imagine. We can carry 148 rounds in total, with a first stage ready rack of 20 rounds. The majority of the ammunition is stored on a carousel on the hull of the vehicle, with the 20 rounds being placed in the turret. After you fire these 20 rounds, these will then be supplemented from the carousel in the hull, making it very similar to the Swedish STRFV 9040 series of light tanks. But unlike the Swedish vehicles, you don't really need to deplete your entire first stage ready rack in order to kill an enemy. The tank's gun handling is pretty good as well, with 75 degrees of gun elevation, allowing us to easily target enemy incoming planes and helicopters. That combined with an auto tracker giving us a lead indicator makes this an incredibly potent makeshift SBAA. Due to its ammunition, which we'll look at shortly, it is especially deadly against helicopters. So if you are short on crew slots in your lineup, you don't even have to take along an additional SBAA. We also have 5 degrees of gun depression. This is a little bit of a limitation. As I said, the 2S38 has a crewless turret, so if you had 10 degrees of gun depression, you could basically sit behind a hill and be basically immune from enemy incoming fire. As you'd also expect, we do have a 2-plane gun stabilizer, allowing us to easily fire on the move. We also have a laser rangefinder and a laser warning receiver. The gun fires 2 rounds every second or every 0.5 seconds, and it is an autoloader, meaning that it is not affected by your crew skill. One reason to pick up the Expert and Ace qualification though is the gun handling, basically the turret traverse rate and the gun elevation and depression rate. With an Ace crew, we can rotate the turret at 60 degrees per second, which is 50% better than an XM1. We can also elevate the gun at 40 degrees per second. The gun elevation has always been the Achilles heel of all the Soviet main battle tanks and Soviet vehicles in general, but it absolutely isn't the case with the 2S38. The good gun is met by equally good ammunition. We have the BR-281U shell. This is an armor-piercing capped ballistic cap shell, similar to the rounds fired by the early World War II vehicles. It travels at 1,000 meters per second, which is the same muzzle velocity as a Tiger II's gun, making it very dangerous even at the battle rating of 10.0. It has 151mm of penetration and a TNT filler charge of 20 grams. This gives it very good post-pen damage, especially considering most modern top-tier tanks are quite cramped inside. Any penetrating round is likely to kill in a single hit. With only 151mm of penetration, at 10.0 and especially at 11.0, against enemies with composite armor, you are going to struggle to go through the front of these enemies. That is where the free UBM-22 comes in. This travels 50% faster at 1,500 meters per second, making it incredibly fast for a SAKO. It can also penetrate 225mm of armor at point blank range. This makes it incredibly deadly against many NATO main battle tanks, which have large gaping weak spots, especially on the turret ring and the lower frontal plates. Looking at you, Abrams and Challenger DS, this is mainly the reason that every NATO main hates this thing. The 57mm saber rounds of this tank fire 2 times a second and basically just always find a way to penetrate your armor, knocking out gun barrels, knocking out turret rings, basically pissing off you incredibly easily. The rounds also produce pretty good post-pen damage, good spall cones, so a side aspect as well, it's also incredibly deadly. But wait, there's more. We also have the free U08 high explosive variable time shell. This basically uses a proximity fused nose in the nose. This can detect enemy incoming planes and helicopters and will detonate its 230 grams of TNT filler approximately 6 meters away from the enemy. Against a lot of the early helicopters and rather slow moving aircraft at a battle rating 10.0, this is incredibly dangerous. Considering the auto tracker in the 2S38 will not give the enemy a warning, against any enemy helicopter that is hovering or moving relatively slowly, there's literally nothing they can do to know you are being fired at, as a helicopter won't get a warning on its RWR, and it won't be able to see a launch contrail like you would get on a SPAA, for example. The gunner sights are also incredibly good. As I said, it does have an auto tracker, which is an infrared system, again meaning that enemies will not be given a warning. We also have a standard 4x zoom, as well as a optional 9.4x zoom. This is the same for the commander's optic, it's again 4x and 9.4x zoom. Both the commander and the gunner also get a 2nd gen thermal imager, which gives you incredibly good target acquisition. It is a little unfair how the Soviet vehicles are getting basically 2023 vehicles, whereas most NATO tanks are still like the 1990s versions. But to be honest lads, there isn't really any downsides about the 2S38, apart from obviously having to buy it with your own fiat money, I guess. The The mobility isn't amazing. You are going to be outcompeted by Leopard 2 A4s, for example. There's a lot of them on the battlefields at the minute. Also, the new Type 90 premiums are going to absolutely spank your ass if you're trying to rush at the start of a match in one of these things. You kind of want to play the 2S38 as more as a support vehicle alongside some of your big, heavier main battle tanks. Let the enemy shoot at these guys, your friends, and then push out and put a few rounds into them, trying to knock out barrels, turret rings, and that sort of stuff. Due to the high rate of fire, you can also be rather aggressive if you need to. Make sure to target obviously the enemy's gun or gun breach, knock out their way to knock you out, and you can kind of just have your way with them. So should you buy the 2S38, or is the newer T80UD the better pickup? Well, if you're a newer player, then the T80UD is the natural obvious choice. It's got fantastic protection, good mobility, and a very reliable main gun. It just doesn't have thermal imager, which I guess is a little bit of a downside. We don't really need a thermal at top tier, well, at 10.0 anymore. Most of the maps are rather straight corridors now, so you don't really, it's a huge disadvantage by not having thermals. It's going to be a lot less punishing to play compared to the 2S38, as you are going to be able to tank some incoming rounds. It also allows you to get up to grips with the playstyle of Soviet MBTs, as it literally just is a top tier Soviet tank with a diesel engine, and they think that should be 10.0 for some reason, not really sure why. But I personally think that for the experienced player, the 2S38 is still going to be the better pick. NATO main battle tanks have very large frontal weak spots in the form of the gun breach and the lower frontal plate, sorry. So a skilled 2S38 player can absolutely dominate the NATO premiums, the Leopard 2A4s, the Type 90s, the M1 KVTs. You can turret ring them, you can gun breach them very easily. With your better thermal imager as well, you can usually spot them before they do spot you. So in the hands of a competent player, which is something that I am not, you can get absolutely monster games in the 2S38. But if you are a beginner, or you aren't really too confident with top tier, I would recommend the T80UD. But more importantly, I'd like to thank my YouTube producers. So a big thank you to Lola Alphonse, Tans, Doboa LX, Dr. Bob, Tomsa013, RS28 Sama, Schlunty, Van Haler, Diogenes, Econ, Rodolfo Dizon, and Alan Hacker. Thanks again, lads. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave a comment saying 3BM69. Nice. If you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a member by pressing the join button. Check out the Discord server where I frequently squad up with my members and friends, and don't forget to leave me a like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Thanks again for watching, lads, and I'll see you in the next video.